Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Whether it's your first time using E2 or you just want to learn how to navigate more easily through E2 Professional, this tutorial is for you. The objective of this video is to help you familiarize yourself with the main functionalities of E2 Professional and give you some tools to simplify its use when doing an ergonomic risk analysis. The first step is to log in using the username and password that were given to you to access E2 Professional. On the main page of E2 Professional, you'll see various sections to complete before starting a workstation assessment. On the left, you will find the site, which is generally defined by the company, the department, the equipment, and the workstation. On the right, as you have not completed an assessment yet, no history will appear. To assess a task, the first step is to complete the task information on the left side. In this tutorial, in order to present to you the main functionalities of the software, we will use work situation from the food industry where the workers have to pour bags into a mixing tank. First of all, let's write down the department. In this case, production. Then the equipment, tank A. And the workstation, operator A. Finally, once you've filled down all the spaces, you can click on the green button, Assess the workstation, to continue to the next page. To proceed with the assessment, you have to read the page from top to bottom. First, at the top, you will always see the site, the department, the equipment, and the workstation that is being evaluated. On the right side, you will see the status of the assessment, which in this case is in progress. At every step, you'll see that E2 Professionals allow you to go back to the previous step by clicking on the Return to Workstation Selection button. By clicking on this option, you'll be sent back to the home page, which will show you the information you've previously entered. Here, you have two options. You can either continue the assessment or abandon it by changing the parameters of the workstation and therefore start a new assessment. Note that in this situation, all the information of the in-progress assessment will be lost, and the software will ask you to start a new assessment with the information you've just entered. When you click on Continue the Assessment, you'll be sent back to the page where you can assess the workstation. In the risk analysis section, you'll have to complete different sections starting with the description of the task. We suggest using an infinitive verb to describe the task. In this situation here, we will write empty a bag into the tank. You also have the option of adding some notes. This allows you to enter all relevant information you want to keep in mind. In this situation, we will write down the frequency, the time spent doing the task, and the weight of the bag. 1 bag per 10 minutes, 4 hours per day, and the bag weight is 55 pounds. The number of workers refer to the number of workers who will be doing the task in one shift. This data will give you an idea of how many workers will be affected by the ergonomic risk. But note that the number you write here will not have an impact on the result of the assessment. The last step is to add a picture of the task or the operation you wish to assess. This will give you a visual of the task and will also be used as a reference in the report you'll be able to produce at the end of the assessment. Ideally, the image should represent the task and the risk factors you have observed. You can now begin the assessment by clicking on the green button to be directed to the next page. On this page, you'll be able to assess the risk for the task or operation. On the left side, you will see the task that is being assessed. You can also see the name of the task in bold, the number of workers, and the note that you have previously entered. Note that it is always possible to change the name of the task without losing your data by clicking on Modify the task. Once you have completed all the information, you can proceed to step 1 and identify the risk factors based on your observation at the workstation or on videos. The risk factors or conditions present in the work environment that can increase the risk of musculoskeletal disorder or harm the worker's health. Assessing them allow you to know the level of risk the worker are exposed to when doing this task, but also to prioritize the main risks. E2 Professional allows you to select up to 12 risk factors. Although, at this stage, it is important to focus mainly on one or a few risk factors that predominate or are the most relevant to assess. One or more risk factors can be selected, and they are classified into 3 categories: posture, effort, and other. Note that a posture is considered at risk when the position of the body segment is close to the maximum range of motion, or when the position is held in time and an effort against gravity is required, or when the position prevents the structures from functioning effectively. At-risk posture can be observed in different parts of the body, like the back, the shoulders, the neck, and the forearms. An effort is present when the task requires the use of strength on a load. Here you will find actions such as lifting effort, like lifting, carrying, or moving a load. Gripping effort, like holding, clasping, pushing and pulling effort, like moving an object horizontally on a surface. In other, localized pressure to the lower limb is the contact between a soft tissue and a harder surface, which compresses the anatomical structures. The kneeling posture is defined when the weight of the body is being supported by the knees on the floor. The crouching position is defined as the knees being bent to an angle under 90 degrees. Prolonged standing is when the worker is consistently holding the standing position with or without moving for a certain period of time. Vibration refers to a continuous oscillatory motion transmitted to the body or to the kickbacks resulting from sudden force. Vibration and kickbacks can be transmitted to the whole body by a car, for example, or to the upper body by a manual tool. Once you have identified one or many risk factors for your situation, you can select them by clicking on the box next to the risk factor. The risk factors you have selected will automatically appear one under the other. You can now go to the next step and assess the modulator for each risk factors you've selected. When the risk factors assessment has not been completed, you will see the "to be completed" mentioned to the right. In order to complete the assessment of the risk factors, you simply have to click on the risk factor to open the options. For each risk, it is possible to select between 5 elements. These are the modulators. The objective of modulators is to give you a picture of the context in which the risk factor is present. They allow the software to establish the risk level for each risk factors. There are 5 modulators in E2 Professional. The first modulator is intensity. The intensity represents the requirement of the risk factor. Depending on the risk factor, the intensity can be defined as, for example, the range of motion, or the type of posture for the awkward posture, the weight of the object for the load handling effort, or the strength that is required to push or pull an object. Here it is important to select the intensity that represents best the work done by the worker. even though there might be some variabilities during the day. Generally, we will choose the situation that is the most frequent in the task or the one that is more problematic. Note that the completion of the modulators will send you to the next one. You can see the element you've selected is visible in the header of the modulator. Also, all the time you can navigate through the different modulators. The second modulator is consecutive duration. The consecutive duration is the continuous time to which the worker is exposed to the risk in a work cycle. This means the time spent in a specific posture or the time an effort is held while doing a task or an operation. The third modulator is frequency. The movement frequency is the number of times the risk factor will occur during the task or operation. Generally, it's the number of movement per minute done while doing the task. Here, it's essential to indicate properly the number of movement done by the worker and not the number of time the worker executes the task. The fourth risk factor is task duration. That's the total time spent doing the task in a shift. This means that if the worker stopped the task for any reason in the shift, like a break or job rotation, for example, the value to enter here would be the addition of all periods the worker spent doing the task or operation. The fifth and last modulator is the amplification factor and interaction effect. These represent conditions in the environment that can be present while doing the task and who could either aggravate or attenuate the level of risk. The choices in this modulator will vary depending on the risk factors. Generally, you'll see production requirement, which can have an impact on the possibilities for the worker to modulate its work. In this modulator, you can also find awkward postures that are similar to other postures the workers will be taking in the day. For this modulator, you always have the option of saying that there are no amplification factor or interaction effect, as it does not apply to all situations. You also have the other box that you can check if you notice any other amplification factor or interaction effect that will not be considered in E2 Professional. By selecting Other, you can increase or decrease the risk level by more or less 5. Although it is recommended that only users with extensive knowledge of ergonomics use this box. When you have completed all the modulators, E2 Professional will indicate on the right side of each risk factor the mention completed, and on the left side the risk rating associated with the risk factor. This means that you can continue on to the next risk factor. For this tutorial, we will assess a lifting effort as an example. So the bag weighs 55 pounds, so over 50 pounds. The bags are held for 12 seconds each, so less than 20 seconds. The worker handles 1 bag per 10 minutes, so less than once every 5 minutes. The worker will do the task for 4 hours a day, and an awkward posture to the shoulder can be observed when emptying the bags. The bags have no handles, so it is considered a difficult grip. And the center of gravity of the bag changes during the handling. It is considered an unstable load. If you're unsure of certain modulator, choose a situation that is the closest or the most representative to the real task and risk factor observed. When the risk factors have been assessed, you have completed the analysis. The global workstation rating and the completed mention will appear on the left side. The global risk rating represents the highest risk factor selected in the assessment. You can now go to the next step, which is summary of workstation, using one of two ways. First of all, by clicking on the tab at the top of the page, or by scrolling down the page and clicking on the green button at the right. As the name indicates, the summary of the workstation section allows you to have a global view of your assessment. In this section, you will find the global risk rating with the legend. It will help you position your risk rating according to the legend to know the level of risk associated with the task. The level of risk can help you identify the action that needs to be prioritized. Red and orange color indicate a very high or high risk. In this case, we suggest you take action to manage those risks. The yellow color indicates a moderate risk. If it's your case, we suggest staying vigilant and considering the issue in future or ongoing project and to do reminders with the workers. The green color indicates a low risk and that no action is required. On the right, you'll be able to click on the title of the task to visualize the risk rating for each risk factors assessed in the previous section. It could be interesting to consider which risk factor is responsible for the global risk rating you obtained in order to guide your actions to come. For example, in our situation, reducing the weight of the bags would be more important than reducing the range of motion associated with the awkward posture to the shoulder. At this point, you'll notice that the Action Plan tab is not available as an E2 business license is required to access it. Finally, an ergonomic risk factor assessment report is available by clicking on the green View Report button. Visualizing the report will be useful to review the details of the assessments for each risk factor. 3 options are offered by E2 Professionnal at the end of the report. Return to assessment, save the report in PDF format on your computer, or create a new assessment. When you are done with the assessment and wish to start assessing a new task, you can start the process over one task at a time. E2 Professionnal only allows you to assess one task at a time, so note that by clicking on the third button, all the information will be erased to allow you to start assessing a new task. Now you know all the functionalities of E2 Professionnal and how to use them effectively in your risk analysis assessment. We hope you enjoy using E2.